Are we good to go now?
Yes.
Okay, yes, they're great. Well, good morning, and we're glad that you're here. And I understand that there's some watch parties across the state, and I think that's so neat for you all to be able to be together and to gather together. And I appreciate Keita and Sydney asking me to participate today. They asked 14 other people to present on this, and they finally got to somebody that would say yes. So I'm the guy that you get when you don't get who you really want. But I'm excited about spending some time together with you this morning, and I do want to interact with you, and maybe you've got some questions just about EMS, maybe the process or the procedure. We might answer some of those throughout the presentation, but certainly I hope that we can share some time together in discussion at the end of the presentation. I noticed in some of the literature that it had that I was a doctor, and I just want to clear that up. I'm not a doctor, but it's just interesting that they mentioned that, because sometimes I jokingly tell people that I'm a ditch doctor, and they say, a ditch doctor, well, what is that? And I said, well, if you're laying in a ditch and you call 911, then I'm the closest thing to a doctor that you're going to get, because they don't make house calls anymore. So we're the ones that make the house calls. We, along with home health, that come and see scheduled appointments, but we're the last of the professions that would come out. And so you think about the days gone by when a physician would come out to your house. And so now the EMS system in the state of Tennessee began in 1972. And you might remember before that, the funeral homes were responsible for the ambulance services across the state. And so we've come a long way. And of course, I'm a paramedic, and para means beside, and a medic, so we stand beside the physician. EMS is a physician-led agency. So anything that we do has physicians' handprints all over it. They give us our orders for our medicine, how we operate, every bit of that, our quality initiatives, every bit of that is operated through a physician. And so I've been involved in EMS for a long time. I grew up here in Crockett County, and I remember in this very room where I'm sitting, I remember coming here when I was about 13 years old. The EMS director at the time let me ride on an ambulance and shadow who I thought were just the greatest heroes of all time in our community, those who worked on an ambulance. And so I'm just thrilled to be back here and working with the Crockett County Ambulance Service. And it's a definitely a passion of mine. You think about EMS and the relationship with the elderly. I also teach critical care and present on conferences just like today. And one of the things that I tell people, if older people get on your nerves or drive you crazy, or if you do not like them, then step one is to exit the profession. And I mean that with all due respect. Greater than 50% of our interactions with the public are with senior citizens in this county. Crockett County is a rural county. We're 70 miles north of Memphis over in West Tennessee. We sit between Madison and Dyer County, and we have 2 nursing homes that we service, a retirement center, assisted living facility. And so greater than 50% of our calls deal with, basically, elderly, our grandparents, the age of our grandparents. And so, if older people, if they frustrate you, or you have a hard time being patient with them, or if you maybe feel inclined to be ugly to them, then, EMS and really healthcare is not for you. And I'll get into it a little bit later on, but I also sat on the EMS board for about 5 years, which is a regulatory board in the state. We regulate the profession. And as an EMS board, we also regulate and discipline the license of providers. And I just assure you that the EMS board then, and I'm sure it is still the case today, we do not tolerate instances of elder abuse and being we just don't do that. And so first, I want to tell you that we love you. Yeah, our EMS providers, we love you, we appreciate you, we value you, we appreciate and respect you. Those that are under the sound of my voice, you are our veterans. I think that if the natural order of things continue and I'm allowed to live, I've said numerous times, and it seems like with every week or month that passes, I say it even more frequently, that within my lifetime, I will have met my last World War II veteran. And Tom Brokaw wrote a book called The Greatest Generation. He called them the greatest generation for a reason, because they are the greatest generation. We're thankful. And I know that under the sound of my voice this morning, and those that maybe watch this later, that are in that aging population, as we think about the time frame of Vietnam, some of those Vietnam veterans are entering into our facilities and are getting older and aging and need assistance. This population, they are our servants in the communities. They're our volunteers. You raised your family. Some of you had to help raise your grandchildren. You are our community leaders. And I just want you to know that none of that is lost on me. And thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices you've made throughout your life. And many of you now are in the golden years of your lives. And I personally believe that those golden years should be happy for you. I think that you should be comfortable. I think that you should be well taken care of as you grow older and you become more vulnerable to needing assistance and dependent upon other people to assist you. I think that you should never have to worry about whether or not you're going to be taken care of or whether or not you're going to be alone. And most certainly, I think that the golden years of your lives should be drama-free. Drama from your family. They should make these years the happiest and the best days of your lives as best as they can. Secondly, EMS is here for you. We're here to serve you, and you're never in our way, never. You're not a hindrance to our work. You're the reason why we come to work. You're the reason why we exist, so that we can serve you and be there for you. And if you have an encounter with EMS that is less than desirable, then you must let those who care for you know. And you must speak out. We want to know about that. As EMS leaders, regulators, directors in this profession, we want to make sure that you all are well taken care of. And when we fall below that standard, please put your hand in the air and let us know. Third, I want to tell you that most of the time, I know it's true here in our county, and it's true as a rule across the state, and I'm sure there are exceptions because of the changing nature of healthcare, but we do not charge for coming to your house. We are a fee-based service, and we charge or bill your insurance only when we transport. And so you may want to call your local area and the local ambulance service in your area to ask them what their policies are about that. But most ambulance services only charge when we transport you. And the reason why I mentioned that with regard to falls, as a matter of fact, I just got off of a fall, we will come and help you, and we will not charge for that. I always get a little nervous, on falls, because I just, like the conversation just a moment ago with the patient, who was incontinent and in the floor. And I just said, you have to be able to go to the bathroom by yourself. And so one of the things that I think about with regard to whether or not a patient needs to go to the hospital is whether or not they're going to be able to clean themselves up and whether or not they're going to be able to go to the bathroom independently. And I don't want to leave somebody at home and they're not able to do some of those things. And so she was pretty adamant that she did not want to go to the hospital. We checked her out and extensively to make sure that she was okay. We're glad to do that. She did not want to go to the hospital, and there will be no bill. Some of this is a sensitive topic. Not everybody likes talking about the natural processes of growing older, and sometimes we shy away from having those conversations with our family and what our desires and wishes are. And so I want to encourage you that whatever it is that you're going through and whatever it is that you would like for your family to know, that they shouldn't have to guess, that shouldn't be unspoken and unconscious, because if it is unspoken, if your wishes and desires are unspoken and unconscious, then they will be likely misunderstood. And so I encourage you to have those difficult conversations. I talk about these things with my family and friends all the time. Hey, you need to have a living will. You need to have a will. You need to have power of attorney. You need to have all that stuff straightened out. And if you're asking someone, in particular, if you're asking someone that's not a family member or not maybe your child or something like that to be your power of attorney, or to take care of you, then you owe it to them to make sure your living will is taken care of, that they know exactly what you want. And so don't be afraid to have those difficult conversations. I know it is difficult, But I have a little saying, if we avoid everything that's difficult and uncomfortable and painful in life, there's just not much else left to life, because there's a lot of difficult conversations and a lot of difficult situations that we face. The changes that happen are difficult to navigate for most people, and a future life that may include a decreased independence or the thought of not being able to drive at some point, that's scary. And for the most part, from what I've seen in my practice, most home health agencies, most EMS agencies, most assisted care facilities and so forth, they want to do everything, physical therapy, they want to do everything in their power to increase your independence and to ensure that you're able to do the things that you want to do. It's hard for me to talk about this topic without talking about the family dynamic that's very interesting these days. And quite honestly, it's concerning to me. Family just doesn't seem to be like what it used to be. So many people are just busy, and they use that as an excuse, to kind of, maybe not care for those in their family like maybe they need to. And so we're always sensitive to that in EMS. For instance, the patient that we just took care of doesn't have any family living nearby. She's not from here. She's from somewhere else. I do not know how she got here or any of that. It doesn't matter. She's here and we're going to take care of her. But that's just one of the things, and that's not an outlier. We see that and deal with that every day. And it just makes me sad. It makes me sad. I'm so thankful for and had a wonderful and fantastic relationship with my grandparents. There was nothing that I would not do for them. And I wish that we could duplicate that a little bit more. Ask yourself, how many of you have kids or grandkids within 5 minutes of where you live, where you are right now? Just kind of think about that. And you might even have if you're in a center or something, you might have just a quick discussion. Just tell them 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Are they 30 minutes away? Are they 2 hours away? And who are you going to call at 3 a.m.? Who's going to come and help you? And 3 a.m. is not a real good time, to figure that out. And so we think about these things ahead of time so that when we are in need, we have that person that we're able to call. And so, so many elderly people I talk to, they have little to no input from their families. And that's pretty sad to me. Some go extended periods of time without talking to them. And, continue to nurture those relationships with your family, and they may not call as often as you would like for them to, but don't let that stop you from reaching out to them and staying connected to them, because they're going to be able to hopefully help you. Siri is a great tool. Raise your hand if you're in a center or you're in a group. Raise your hand if you have an iPhone, an Android, or a smartphone. Kind of put your hand up and say, hey, I do, And so I encourage you to learn how to use that. I love Siri. I use it all the time. And you can just talk to your phone and tell it what you want it to do. You can tell Siri to call 911 for you if you'd like. And then in our county, if you call 911 on a smartphone, and we can send you a text message and actually take over your phone and turn your camera on and be able to see you, see where you're at, see what kind of condition you're in, so that we'll know what resources to send to help you. And so the technology's come a long way. And so even if maybe you have your phone, by the chair or something, if you know how to use Siri or you know how to use Google, then you're able to get help on the way if perhaps you don't have a pendant. Falls are pretty common. We deal with them all the time, every day, all day. We'll have numerous fall calls today. We've had one so far. We'll probably have 2 more before the day's over with. It's very common. Gravity is still in effect, and it is a threat to the health of the older population. And I think it's just it's of utmost importance to remind us that falls are the greatest threat to your independence. I want you to be where you are and able to do for yourself as long as you can. So do all the rest of your care team. And the number one thing that prevents that for most people is a bad fall. It's the leading cause of death for adults over 65 years old. They cost over $50 billion a year. Falls are extraordinarily expensive. You think about somebody that is on blood thinners and they have a trip and fall. They call an ambulance. The ambulance takes them to the hospital. They go to the ER. They get in the ER. They have extensive imaging of their head because they hit their head. They're on blood thinners. They got protocols. They do a CAT scan. You have a brain bleed as a result of that fall because you're on blood thinners. You go have neurosurgery as a result of that. I mean, it gets real expensive real quick. We're not even talking about ortho bills. Just yesterday, a church member fell, broke her elbow, and I sent her a text and I said, "You let us know what you need. We're going to be there for you and take care of whatever." And she said, "I'm fine. I'm just mad at myself." This is a spry, ready to go, energetic, just ready to do for everybody and just living the dream, driving happy, and has a trip and fall and has a setback. And so it's very frustrating to her. And I'm glad she's not hurt worse than what she is. More than 95% of hip fractures are caused by a fall. And so I mentioned some of this because I want us to know the importance and what a threat it really is. Those of you that are ladies out there, hey, you are more likely to fall than men. 75% of all falls are ladies. And so I jokingly, when I was putting together this PowerPoint, I said, what's going on with the men in their lives? Are these men shoving them down or tripping them up and they're falling over? Is that what's going on? They need to get rid of some of these bad guys in their lives. That's not really the case. I was just thinking about that. You think about osteoporosis and how our bones are and how our bodies are made, and just as a result of all the natural pathology of these events, 75% of the falls are women. So if you're ladies out there that are listening to me, just know that you're at higher risk to fall. And then once you fall, you're at higher risk for breaking a hip and the cause of death. So this is all super, super, super important. They're the most common cause of traumatic brain injuries. And so these brain bleeds we were talking about a minute ago, falls. So what can we do? I'm not content to just go out every day and pick people up out of the floor. I'm not content to just go out every day and take people to the hospital and let them have brain surgery and fix their broken bones and broken hips and broken elbows. I want to prevent it. So how do we do that? Get a physical checkup every year. Be sure to stay close to your physician and let him do a physical, or him or her do a physical on you, and monitor your physical strength in that way. Get an eye exam. Make sure that you're staying regular with your eye appointments so that you make sure that we're not missing anything, that we can see clearly and understand what's going on. Review your medications. I mean, sometimes you might be on 2 or 3 different blood pressure medicines, or you might have a what we call polypharmacy, where you're just on all kinds of medications, and you just don't feel good, and you're sleepy, or whatever it is that's going on, and your blood pressure's low, and you're a little dehydrated, or maybe you have a urinary tract infection that's also going to make your blood pressure low, and you've been laying down, and then you just get up immediately and go to the bathroom and you pass out and fall. So review your medications with your provider and your pharmacist. Keep a check on your vital signs. Some of you are watching and having watch parties from facilities that have activity programs for your strength and your balance. And don't be ashamed to participate in some of those things. It's good for you. It's good for you and help you stay strong and independent. And so I encourage you to be a part of that. Some, maybe you're a little bit younger and you're listening, you're not really in a facility. Some gyms give really awesome discounts, and some health insurance programs, offer really good deals for you to be a part of a gym so that you can go and get a little exercise. Some churches or gyms in a community, like actual gymnasiums, not a workout gym, but some school gyms, or maybe older gyms of a school that's no longer in use, they might have a walking program where they unlock the gym every day for citizens to come walk. And go do that, because not only are you out walking, you're getting physical activity, but you're also getting social interaction with other people, and you're able to talk and share and kind of do life together, and that's important. I'm a big fan. Most people, watch TV. I'm not a big TV watcher. I grew up on a farm, so we always had to work. There was always something to do. There were fences that needed to be fixed, and hinges that need to be replaced at the barn, and cows need to be taken care of. But a lot of people watch TV, and they can go an extended period of time watching TV before they ever really move. And so, especially when COVID kind of was coming through, and People were in isolation because they were positive. I said, listen, every time a commercial comes on, you need to be doing something. You need to get up, walk in place, stretch your legs, stretch out, kind of, so I mentioned that to you, regular activity program. So this stasis and being in a chair for an extended period of time, sometimes that time flies. Some of you have iPhones, some of you have iPads, some of you are on Facebook or listening to YouTube, and when you're on Facebook, if you have Facebook, raise your hand if you're on Facebook to let your peers know if you're on Facebook or YouTube. The time really flies when you're doing that. It really goes by quickly. And sometimes in the evenings, I know that for my granddad, times got a little lonely after my grandmother passed away. And he could use an iPad very well. And he loved Facebook. He'd get on there on Facebook and kind of watch videos and look at pictures, and the time would just fly before you knew it. It was bedtime. And so I just encourage you when those commercials come on to get up, stretch your legs, reach up a little bit and have some physical activity just a little bit, better than nothing. Go through your house, and those of you that still live at home, or maybe you're in a retirement home where you kind of have your own room, go through there and just make sure that maybe go through with a family member or friend, but make sure there's no trip hazards. Man, people have all kinds of stuff in their houses. They've got rugs and throw rugs, and they got rugs rolled up. They got cords, extension cords going across the floor, especially around Christmas time, trying to get over to the Christmas tree, and little lights they've got set up in the windows, and there's stuff in the floor. There's things that they drop. There's things that maybe a grandchild has, a truck or whatever, and they trip over that. And so just be aware of what's in your floor. Keep your home neat and tidy, and get a little help to do that with. And that will reduce those trip hazards. Also in the kitchen, those common items that you use every day, don't stick them in the bottom cabinets in the very back or in the top, way back in the back where you're having to get a ladder out or getting a step stool out every time to get this common item out every day. Put it where you can get it, waist level. As was the call this morning that we went on. I mean, I know it may sound strange to you, but this is just a guess. I'm gonna say 90% of the homes we go into do not have lights. Oh yeah, I've been meaning to get some light bulbs, and they don't. They rob one from the lamp to put up there, and it goes out. And they don't. I don't know what the deal is with light bulbs in America, but it's such a problem that almost all of us carry flashlights on us because we go into people's houses where there's no lights. Well, guess what? Guess what's going to happen when you're walking around in darkness during the day and you don't have any lights on? Tell me what's going to happen. Exactly. So get you some lights. Darkness is so common, and put you some lights in your bedroom. Get you some LED lights. I don't care what kind of lights. Just make sure that you have some lights in your house. When getting out of bed, maybe it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You think, well, I have to get up 2 o'clock in the morning to use the bathroom. Hey, no big deal. When you get up out of bed, just you've been asleep for a minute. It's okay to just sit on the edge of the bed for a minute. Make sure you're not dizzy and you're feeling good and strong. Just take a minute. Just take a minute. Make sure that you're okay. You don't want to hop out of bed and then immediately, fall over. So just take a second. Handrails are important. If you don't have handrails, hopefully you do. If you don't have handrails, get somebody to put them up. You never know when you're going to need them. And it's not that big of a deal to install handrails, and get you somebody to help you so that you can go up and down steps going in and out of the house without any problem. This is a big one. This is exactly the reason why this lady fell this morning. If she had on a different pair of shoes, she would have never fell. Never fell. So she had on Crocs. How many of you know what Crocs are? You have a pair of Crocs? Okay, well, if you have a pair of Crocs, just go ahead and throw them away. All right, you don't need them. They're very, very slick. They're like foam shoes. They're very slick. And we have a little dust on the floor or whatever common floors that are not carpet, tile, hardwood. Crocs are super slick. Now you add to Crocs just a drop of water, and I mean, it is like walking on ice. Shoes are so, so, so important.
Stephen, I think you froze up. Can you still hear us? Okay. We're having some technical difficulties, everybody. Hang on just 1 second.
So because what's going to happen is the perfect storm. It's going to be more than one.
12 to
And the
1.
more
So
of these
12 to
things you
1.
skip or the more hazards you have, then the more risk you are, at falling. And so I want to hear from you and I want to hear what you have to say. We've talked about falls this morning for half of our time. We have we have the time to help. We have the time to listen. And so we have 30 minutes. And if you have questions about maybe navigating EMS or, I want to hear those questions from you. So, Keita, I'm just going to give you a second to kind of run the room and do your thing, and we'll take any questions that you have. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay.
Okay.
So if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat box if you want to. And we can also, if you want to unmute yourself and ask Stephen a question, you're welcome to do that as well. I will say, Stephen, there was a comment in the chat box when you were talking about lights, and it says that older adults are on a fixed income. That's why they tend to keep all their lights off. So that may be why you come into a lot of houses with it being dark.
Hey, we see working folks that don't have lights as well. It's just a pretty common thing, really, across the age spectrum. So many homes we go into, do not have lights. And so you may not be able to have lights in every room of your house, but the rooms that you're in the most of the time, make sure that you have a light in there so that you're able to see. And it's being able to see kind of where you're going and what those hazards might be, could save you a lot of heartache and trouble down the road. Good thought though. I think about that a lot, especially in these difficult times of inflation. I mean, things, financially are very difficult even for people who are working. I like to say to my staff sometimes, we're all on a fixed income. All of us have a certain amount of money that we're going to make, and the gas, the groceries, the medicine, and all the things that you all are facing. It's a very, very difficult time, I know. Thank you for sharing with us.
Does anybody have any questions for Stephen? Now's your chance. There's nothing coming through in the chat. Nobody's unmuted. So I'm not sure, Stephen. We might not have anybody asking questions.
Anyone have any other suggestions or things that work for them in terms of falls that they would like to share with the group, or maybe someone has fallen and maybe there were some things that they had to do differently in their home, that you'd like to share with the group?
Don't be shy. Now's your chance to ask all the medical questions you've always wanted to ask and not be charged for a doctor's visit.
Sometimes when the ambulance comes, oftentimes we don't have a lengthy period of time to converse and get to know one another and ask questions. Most of the time it's just kind of strictly business. What's your name, date of birth, what hospital you want to go to, what happened, doing assessments and all of that. And so we don't get to sit down and just talk as much as we would like to. And so that was a really, and if there's no questions, no big deal. We just give you your time back. But
Well,
I definitely say
someone
again.
came in on the chat and said that one program I initiated was Vial of Life for my seniors. So, Suzanne, if you want to let us know what that means and what that entails, we're happy to take it.
That's a great program. Suzanne, you want to share with us?
Okay. There was also someone, they asked the question, it says, can you walk us through a quote unquote typical response to an emergency call when the older adult falls? i.e., do you help lift them? Like, kind of what's the protocol?
Yeah, sure. That's a real good question. And I want to hit on something else that I didn't mention. So when you fall, what we don't want is for there to be this extended period of time before you're found. Sometimes there's 4, 5, 6, 12 hours before we get to someone that's fallen because they don't have a pendant around their neck where they're able to hit a button. They don't have their phone on them, and then they're found by a family member or friend that's unable to contact them. And so oftentimes in that case, it's been hours since they were on their feet. And so I think step one, think about, when I fall, how am I going to let somebody know that I've fallen? Because don't count on being able to get back up and being able to move. You might break a hip, break a leg, you might knock yourself out, so be thinking about some of those things. So when that call comes in, we run emergency to every call because for us, it's more than a fall. I always think what made them fall. Were they having a stroke? They have a heart attack? Are they unresponsive? Is their blood sugar low? They take too much medicine? Is their blood pressure low? What do they have a seizure? What is it that caused the fall? And so that's always on the back of our mind. So we run emergency to every call, even though it may be a fall. But once we get to your house, if your house is locked, then that presents another problem. And so if you do not have a means to let people in, then depending on the severity of the situation, we may have to breach the door in order to gain access to you. And so the more severe or the more sick that we think that you may be, the more likely we are to breach the door. If we're able to talk to you through your window and you said, I'm fine, I just fell, we might be able to wait on a family member. Oftentimes, and it was the case this morning, that they had a key that was strategically hidden outside the home. We were able to just unlock it, put the key back where it was, gain access to the patient. And that's a great thing, except that not everybody feels comfortable and safe doing that. And so I encourage you to put some kind of plan together with your family for what's best for you. But just know that it's very important for us to be able to get into your home and to gain access to you. Once we're there, try to figure out what's going on. If an emergency exists, so a fall isn't necessarily an emergency, but if an emergency exists, you're not breathing, you're having a seizure, you're having a stroke, whatever, we're going to deal with that first. And before we think about trying to get you up or whatever, because we may take some precautions regarding all of that. So once you're there, we say, well, there's really nothing here except the patient fell. She's fine. She just wants to get up, or he just wants to get up and sit in the chair or whatever it is. Then, we'll try to get you up. And it may, sometimes we use a sheet to do that. Sometimes we use what's called a mega mover. It's kind of this thing with handles that we can use. There's the binder lift that we can use. It's kind of like a coat that's made out of some straps and things, kind of like a straight jacket or something we'll put you in. Not really like all that entailed, but what it does is it puts it's this vest thing that we can put on you that give us some handles to kind of get you by, so if you're in a bathtub or something and you're wet and there's really nowhere to get you, and so we can put this binder lift on you, and it is kind of like it's kind of like wearing a life vest the wrong way, like putting your legs through where your arms go. It kind of goes that way. And there's some straps that go across your groin so we can pick you up and it won't just slide off of you when it comes up. And so we got some of those things we can use to get you up. And so once we get you up, we'll check you out. We transport patients, so likely you'll hear us talk about, the answers are generally in a consensus. If you're not able to make a decision, if you're not conscious, if you're altered mental status, all of those kinds of things, then we act on your behalf and do what we think is best for you without your consent. And so we will take you to the hospital. If you're having a stroke and you're not able to make a decision, then we're gonna act in your best interest. We're gonna do what's right for you, even though you may not even know it. Okay, and so that's pretty common as well. And once we get you up, we'll check your vital signs out. If you don't want to go to the hospital, and you're just adamant about it and everything's good and you're alert and oriented and check out okay, then we'll get you signed some paperwork saying that you don't want to go, that you know what you're doing, and that releases us from the liability of that call. If something were to happen or when you fell again, we say, hey, we tried to tell them to go to the hospital. We told them they could fall again. We told them they could even die. And so we'll do some paperwork and we'll get on down the road. What was some of those things, Kitty? Did I address all of their questions in there?
Yes, you did. We've had a couple of things coming through the chat. So
Good.
someone said, I salute you. Your passion for the elderly shows. So good job, Stephen. Kelly commented that there is a place in Bartlett, Tennessee called Next Day Access, and they have a product that helps lift patients that have fallen to a sitting position. So she stated that you could look them up online. It's called Next Day Access in Bartlett, and that is a device that someone in the public can purchase. It's not just strictly for medical people.
Yeah, sure.
Um, Suzanne commented that she's not able to unmute and talk, but she said that the vital access or vial of life is a form that she shared with uh, local EMS, and every resident fills out the form and places it on their refrigerator. So it has
Mhm.
their medical history, surgeries, insurance, emergency contact information, medications, and things like that. So even if you don't have that quote unquote official form, that may be something you want to look into for just to have handy. So if you do have a fall or something and you're unconscious, someone from EMS may be able to find that and use that information to help get you the services that you need.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good. Yeah, the
Um,
Bible is a good thing. And, I'm so glad that you all have this keto just because there's things we need to be thinking about. How are we going to get in your house? If you're not hurt, we really don't want to bust your door. We don't tear up anything. How are we going to get in? And who are you going to call? Do you have a pendant? We don't want you, bad things happen. The longer you lay on the floor, the worse things get. Okay. And so it's very important to have that immediate pendant that you can push, that immediate thing that's going to alert us that you're in the floor. And so the longer you're in the floor, if you're having a stroke, that's brain. If you're having a heart attack, that's heart. But also, the longer you're in the floor, you could develop rhabdomyolysis. There's a ton of other things that could come down the pike that could increase your hospital course of stay, increase the number of days you're going to be in ICU, and decrease your independence and increase your mortality and morbidity. We don't want that. We don't want that. We want to take good care of you, get to you as quick as we can, and get you fixed up. And so, I appreciate so many people being interested in the falls and how we can work together to make sure you all are taken care of. Good
right.
thoughts, good questions,
And
suggestions.
there are links to both of these products that we talked about, the Vial of Life and also the one that Kelly talked about the product that helps lift patients. I will make sure when I send out the follow up with Stephen's presentation, I'll also include those two links so you can see that information and have access to that as well. So Um, it's good to think about, Stephen. I liked your recommendation of talking to your family and having a plan, not only for what's going to happen, but also for how to get into the home. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about because they're just like, I'm fine, I don't need it. So knowing that there is a backup plan or there is somebody that can help you if or help get EMS get in the house, that's always a good thing too. So Stephen, do you have a suggestion if they have their medication and stuff listed? Like, what's a common place that EMS tend to go look for information? Do they need to keep it in a certain area? Do they need to just have it available? Like, what's your recommendation?
I mean, I think the refrigerator's fine. The more publicly available place, we know where most people keep their medications, kind of a cabinet close to the sink or whatever. If you're unconscious and we need some of that information, we're going to find it because it's most time your medicine is not going to be hidden, under the bathroom sink in the very back in some, conspicuous. It's going to be in a available space. And so, if you just have your medicine basket laying out on the counter where all your medicines are, if you have envelope that you could just put 911 on the front of it, or emergency in case of emergency, EMS, and you just have that envelope in there. Get your pharmacy once a year to print out all of your medicines. You don't have to do all this yourself. You go to the pharmacy and say, hey, it's January. Can you print out all my medicines for my EMS file that I keep at my house? Then you take it out, put that in with your medical history, update it once a year. That way we'll know what's going on, and we can take care of you. Now, I will say this that may be helpful to you. I haven't mentioned it, but um, most systems you can check. You can check with your local system. I know it's the case here in Crockett County. So if I come and pick up Kita and she has all the medical history and medicines and all the things going on, and I put all of that in my computer where I document the call. If Kita calls again and 3 weeks later, it's a different crew. They never met Kita. They put in Kita's name and date of birth. It pops up that other file. Then it auto-populates all of her medical history and medications, and I can see that in a glance. So not everybody has that feature turned on. We do because we transport repetitive patients. Remember, we have nursing homes and stuff here, and so we don't want to put that in every single time. And so we try to put it in there accurately the first time, keep it updated, and that way we have the most accurate record. We probably know more about the patient than some of their family members do, just because we have that record in our documentation software, and we merge that and pull it over. Something else that you can do if there's some, I know we can do it here in Crockett, but I have to kind of speak, locally instead of so regionally or statewide. But if there's some nuance that, and I'm not trying to be unkind, I'm just saying that, let's say that there's a patient in the home that weighs maybe 400 or 500 pounds, they could call the dispatch center ahead of time. Like today, you could just call and say, hey, this is Steven. I just want to let you all know that there's a patient in our home that weighs, 400 or 500 pounds. And just know that if anytime we call 911 or whatever, then you all might need some lift assistance. You might need additional personnel to come with them. What we don't want to happen is to get on the call, get out there, and the patient be having an emergency and us not have the lifting ability that we need to be able to take care of that patient. So then we call for more help, but we got to wait for them to get there when they could have just been sent from the beginning. And so sometimes you can alert them, and then if you're able to call 911, you would definitely want to include some of that nuance information, like, hey, I just want to let you know that we may need some additional lift assistance, whatever, for this patient, so they can send the help when they send the ambulance. And so that's a pretty good thing. Also, if you feel comfortable, I don't want to do the wrong thing here, but if there's a place that you feel that you can put a key that's safe outside the home, then you still can call the 911 center and see if they will let you load that information in the CAD, computer-aided dispatch. And I know that we allow that in Crockett. So let's say I'm at home and I've got a key that's on a hook up underneath a wooden table or something. I can call the dispatch up here and say, hey, I just want to let you know, I live at 123 Macklemore, and if you ever need to get in my home, I have a key that's under the wooden table that's, on a hook, and it's kind of out of the view. Just need to kind of get down and look up underneath it, and that's where the key is, up underneath that table. And so they can put that note in there when you call. It kind of pops up and says, hey, there's a note at this address. I don't know if you have Life 360. If you have apps like that on your phone, they're really good. And I just encourage you to engage with your family. If you have a crash or something out and about, I mean, it's immediately going to call 911. Immediately going to call 911 and tell us that you've been in a crash. You don't have to do nothing. We're on the way. And so use the technology if you can. It's a great thing. Any more comments, Keita? Question?
Someone commented and just said, great tip on the calling ahead and letting EMS know where they can get in. I do have a quick question. So you were talking about like the envelope or whatever to keep handy, so in case of emergency or anything like that. What all do you suggest to have in that? If they have a living will, do they need to put a copy of that in there? Obviously, their medication. What all do you suggest they have readily available for EMS in case they need something?
Those are real good questions. Emergency contact. Who we going to call? Who we going to call for you? Hey, this is Steven. I'm with EMS. I'm up here at Keita's house. She's sick. We got to get her to the hospital. Okay. Emergency contact. 2, 3, 4, 5 people and their cell phone numbers. Just list them out. Your medications, medical history. If you're diabetic, whatever. We can look at your medicine sometime and tell. Any prior surgeries. If you've had a recent surgery, they give you that paperwork that you sent home. But they sent home with you, like your discharge papers. Just put that by your medicine box for a couple of weeks until you're fully recovered. That way we get there, we look and say, oh, she's having a stroke. She just had a hip replacement a week ago. I bet she's thrown a clot. We need to get her to the hospital. So we're able to see some of that. So put that discharge paperwork out there. Or we could say, oh, they were just in the ER yesterday. Look, here's the discharge paperwork right here. So just set all that by your medicine until you get to feeling better and you don't need it. Then add it to your medical record. That way we'll know what's going on. And you might put in there your living will, put in there for bigger cities. If you live in Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, you might put in there where your doctors are. My heart doctors at Baptist East in Memphis, my stroke doctors at Methodist University. Put where your doctors are and what your preferences are in terms of hospitals and where you would like to be taken. Now, we can't always honor that. If you say that, well, my heart doctor is at XYZ hospital, but you're involved in a trauma, then, you need to go to a trauma center. So we're still gonna we have some rules about where we take patients that we have to follow, and we try to make those decisions in a consensus where everybody can agree. But having that information is very helpful. And because sometimes you're altered, see, you don't even know you're altered. You could not be thinking right and not know that you're not thinking right. And so if you have all this stuff down, there's no guesswork. Your social security number, date of birth, your full name, who else lives in the house with you, the medical contact, your preferences on hospitals, living will, power of attorney, who they are, list Stephen Sutton, POA. Here's his cell phone number, whatever. And, what your neighbor phone, maybe if there's a neighbor or something that you talk to that helps you from time to time, put their number down there that maybe could be in contact with your family as well. So all that stuff's good. The more the merrier. Just keep it updated. That's the main thing.
Okay. Does anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead. Okay. I thought somebody had a question. Does anybody else have any questions for Stephen? Okay. Well, Stephen, thank you very much for being here today and for answering everybody's questions. And
Yep.
you're getting a
I
lot
just
of.
want to reassure you all. I just want to reassure you all before we go that we're here for you 24/7, 365. Since 1972, we have never closed our doors. We have never missed a call. We have never failed to send an ambulance to an emergency. And so on your worst day, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's dark, scary, lonely, we're going to be there for you. We're going to be there for you. You can count on us. Okay. We're going to take good care of you, even though you may not know it. I promise you, I see it every day. I see it every day. These people rolling out the red carpet, providing high level care to people that have no idea that they're doing it and they're doing the right thing for them. And so I just, if and when your time comes, and my time, I think about this myself. I got more days behind me than I have ahead of me. I know that they're going to be there for me, and we're going to be there for you too. We're going to take great care of you. We're going to be there with you. Okay. We'll get through it together. I love you all. Certainly respect and appreciate all that you've done throughout your life to take care of other people and for the work that you've done to contribute to being positive influences in our community. And it has been the highlight of my week to share an hour with people that are so valued in our communities. I appreciate it.
Stephen, you're getting a lot of thank yous, great tips, great job, awesome information. Love your passion. God bless you. The world needs more like you. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for taking the time to work with everybody. And also, I encourage everyone that's listening to reach out to your local EMS agencies. Go meet them. Ask to set up times to talk to them. Let them get to know you, because that makes a difference as well. If they understand you, they know what's going on with you. They know, if your house is hard to find, that's information that they can use if in case you ever need it. Hopefully you don't ever need it, but it's there if you need to. So I encourage you all to reach out to your local EMS agencies and get to know them. So
Absolutely. If you're a facility, have them come speak. If you'll feed them, they'll come tell you whatever you want to know. And so, if you're a facility, say, hey, we'd love to have EMS over sometime. And that way y'all can get all the ins and outs of what they do. And it's just a great thing. It's always good to know who you're dealing with before you have an emergency. You can't always do it, but it's good to do if you can. So good
yeah,
thoughts. Thank you, Keita, so much.
you're welcome. Thank you, Stephen. And I am going to stop the recording now.